The notice was tacked to the post office board, with a single nail slightly crooked, the paper already soft at the corners from the weather. She read it twice, not because she didn't understand it the first time, because she wanted to be sure about the man who wrote it. Relay station. Rimrock Basin, Wyoming Territory. Need cook and mender. Horses fed twice daily. Wage, $6 a month plus board. Inquire. Rimrock Station. Ask for the station master. No name. Just a title. She folded the notice into her coat pocket and walked back to the boarding house where she'd been sleeping 4 to a room for 11 days. She had $31. She had a carpet bag with 2 dresses, 1 pair of boots that leaked at the left heel, a wool blanket, and a ledger book with nothing written in it yet. She had come to Laramie from Ohio on a promise that hadn't kept, and she was done waiting for people to keep promises. She wrote back that evening, said she could cook and she could mend and she was available immediately. Did not mention that she could also read a survey map, that she had spent 4 years riding with her father across the eastern plains when he worked as a county assessor, or that she knew more about terrain and elevation and drainage than most men who called themselves scouts. She mentioned none of that because it wasn't what he asked. She got a reply in 5 days. Come on the Thursday stage, I'll have someone meet it. She came on the Thursday stage. Nobody met it. She stood in the road outside what passed for a depot, a lean-to with a bench and a stovepipe, and watched the stage pull away toward the next stop and the dust settle and nothing else move. The land out here was wide and pale and scoured, the kind of landscape that felt older than everything on it. A ridge ran along the western horizon like a scar. Below it, maybe 2 miles off, she could see a cluster of low buildings. She picked up her bag and walked. The station was a main house, a long stable, a smithy shed, and 2 outbuildings that looked like they hadn't been used in some time. There were horses in the corral, 8 of them, which seemed low for a relay operation if they were running the full Laramie to Cheyenne line. The corral fence needed work on the north side. She could see it from 50 yards out. A man came out of the stable when she was 20 feet from the gate. He was taller than she'd expected, though she didn't know why she'd expected anything. He had a hat pushed back on his head and his hands were dirty from whatever he'd been doing inside. He looked at her, then at the bag, then back at her. "The woman from Laramie?" he said. "Yes," she said. He nodded, short and once. Corey was supposed to meet the stage. He didn't. No, he didn't apologize. He opened the gate and held it. "Kitchen's in the main house. There's a room off the back." She went in. The kitchen was functional but barely. The stove needed blacking. The chimney drew slow. There were 2 pots, 1 spider pan, a coffee grinder, a tin of salt, flour that had gone slightly soft from moisture, and a string of dried peppers that had been there long enough to lose most of their color. The wood box was low. The water barrel was 2/3 full, which was better than she'd expected. She put down her bag, she unpacked her blanket, and set it on the cot in the back room. Then she came out and started the fire. When he came in an hour later, she had coffee on and beans soaking. He looked at the pot and then at her. "I didn't know what you had," she said. "So I worked with what was there. I'll need a list of what you want kept on hand." He sat down at the table. "Beans take hours to cook." "Yes," she said. "I soaked them. We'll eat at 7. He looked at her in a way she recognized, the slight recalibration behind the eyes, when a person realizes they've made an assumption that was wrong. He didn't say anything else. He drank his coffee and went back out. At 7, she put supper on the table. Beans cooked down with the dried peppers, and some fatback she'd found at the back of the cold box, cornbread in the spider pan, coffee. He ate without speaking. The only other person at the table was a young man named Corey, the one who was supposed to meet the stage, who was maybe 19 and ate with his elbows on the table and kept glancing at her like he wasn't sure what she was doing there. After supper, he pushed back his chair and said, "That was better than I expected." She stacked the plates. "I'll try not to disappoint you on a regular basis." He almost smiled. She caught the edge of it before he looked away. She learned the station in layers, the way she'd learned every piece of land she'd ever needed to understand. The first layer was the routine. Stage came through Tuesday and Thursday going east, Monday and Friday going west. Each pass required fresh horses. The Laramie to Cheyenne line was hard riding, 50 miles in 5 hours when the road was dry, longer when it wasn't. She learned which horses were being rotated and which were resting and which were too far, worn down to be useful. She started keeping a list without being asked. The second layer was the problem. She saw it first in the numbers. 6 horses resting, 2 running. That was wrong for a 2-direction relay. It should have been 8 running and 4 resting minimum. She watched the stages come through, and she counted the passengers, and she watched how the drivers looked when they pulled in. They all had the same expression. Not tired from the ride, worried about the next one. She asked Corey about it one afternoon when they were both in the yard. Why does the westbound always come in running hard? Corey shrugged. It's a hard stretch. It's the same stretch as the eastbound. He looked at her. Westbound comes from Kelton. That's the bad part. What's bad about it? He shrugged again. This time, it was the shrug of someone who didn't know, but wasn't sure he was supposed to say so. She went and found the maps. They were kept in the back of the station master's office, folded into a flat wooden box that she might not have found at all if she hadn't been looking for Candlestock. Survey maps, government issue, 1874. She spread them on the table in the kitchen after supper and studied them by lamplight. The route the stages were running from Kelton came down through a canyon called Bitter Notch. She could see it on the map. The way the elevation dropped sharp, the way the road had to zigzag the grade, 3 miles of downhill that would burn out a horse's legs before it even hit the flat. Then it climbed again before the basin. No wonder the horses were coming in ragged. She looked at the land around it. There was a secondary ridge to the south, lower, gentler. No road on it, but the contour lines told her the grade was half what Bitter Notch was running. If the road went south of the ridge instead of through the canyon, the distance was maybe 4 miles longer, but the horses would arrive fit instead of spent. You'd save time in the exchange. You'd save the animals. She traced it with her finger 3 times to make sure she was reading it right. She folded the map and put it on the corner of the table and went to bed. In the morning, she left the map where it was. He noticed it at breakfast. He didn't say anything, but she saw his eyes go to it, then to her, then back to his coffee. You can look at it, she said. He looked at it. He stood with his coffee and studied it for a long time. She washed the breakfast dishes and didn't watch him, but she listened. Where'd you get this? He said finally. Wasn't quite a question. Storage room. There's a box of them. That one's Rimrock Basin, 1874. I know what it is. The line south of the ridge is shorter on grade. 4 miles longer in distance, but the horses arrive in better condition. The drivers know it too. You can ask them. They push hard through Bitter Notch because there's no choice. South line, they don't have to push. He looked at her now. I grew up reading survey maps, she said. My father was a county assessor. I'm not telling you how to run your station. I'm telling you what the map says. He was quiet. She wrung out the dishcloth and hung it on the peg. The stage company would have to approve a route change, he said. Yes, they don't approve things quickly. No. He rolled up the map. I'll write to them, he said. He said it like it cost him something to say. All right, she said. Corey left in November. He told her before he told the station master, which she suspected meant something about how the station felt to him, which side he trusted. He was going back east. His mother was sick. His father needed help on the farm. He shook her hand when he told her, and she said she hoped his mother recovered and meant it. He told her something else too, low and a little sideways, not looking at her directly. He had a wife, Corey said. 2 years back. She took sick in the winter. It was bad. She nodded. She didn't ask more. He's not easy, Corey said. But he's square. He means what he says. I know, she said. She did know. She'd understood that about him in the first week. After Corey left, it was just the 2 of them and the horses and whatever riders passed through. She took over the horse log. He didn't ask her to. She just started keeping it. Which animals ran which routes on which days, what their condition was when they came in, how long they needed before they were fit again. She wrote it in the ledger she'd brought from Laramie, the one that had been empty. He found her writing in it one evening and stopped in the doorway. What is that? Horse log, she said. I figured it would help to have a record. He came to the table and read over her shoulder. She was aware of him standing there, the nearness of it, the way his breathing slowed when he was reading something carefully. This is Burl's bad leg, he said, pointing. He's favoring it again. Started 3 days ago. I didn't want to say it until I was sure. He was quiet, noticed, he said. He didn't say he hadn't. He also didn't say he'd been watching it the same way she had. But she knew. She'd seen him in the corral at dusk, running his hand down Burl's left foreleg. "I'll call the farrier from Kelton," he said. "I already sent a note with Tuesday's stage," she said. "If that was the wrong thing to do, I'll wait for your say-so next time." He didn't say it was the wrong thing to do. The letter from the stage company came in January, 3 months after she'd left the map on the table. She was outside splitting kindling when he came out of the office with it. She could tell by the way he held it, careful, like it was something breakable, that it was the answer they'd been waiting for. "Well," he said, she set down the hatchet. "They want a survey," he said. "A proper one, not the 74 government map. They want someone to ride the South Line and assess the grade and give them numbers." "That's reasonable," she said. He looked at her. "I was thinking you could do it." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm not a surveyor." "No, but you read the map right, and you know what you're looking at, and I trust your numbers more than I trust a man from Cheyenne who's never been out here." She thought about that, about what it meant that he said he trusted her numbers. "I'll need a good horse," she said. "Take Mace," he said. "She's the steadiest." She took Mace and a compass and the 1874 map folded in her coat pocket, and she rode the South Line in January cold with the wind coming off the ridge and her breath clouding in front of her. She took notes in her ledger: grade elevation, distance markers, ground condition, drainage patterns, exposure to weather. She was thorough because she was always thorough, and because she knew these numbers would go to men in an office who had never set foot in Rimrock Basin and would use them to decide things. She took 3 days. When she came back, she wrote it up clean at the kitchen table, organized by mile marker with a summary at the end. She handed it to him. He read it twice. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me any of this when you came? The maps, the assessor work. Why didn't you say it?" She thought about how to answer. "You didn't ask for it," she said. "You asked for someone who could cook and mend." "I would have." He stopped. "You would have said yes or no to someone who knew survey work," she said. "But you didn't know if you could trust my judgment yet. Now you do." He folded the survey in half. His hands were rough, the way working hands are in winter, and they were careful with the paper. "Yes," he said. "I do." The stage company approved the South Line in March. She wasn't there when the letter came. She was in the stable checking on Burl, whose leg had finally come right after 2 farrier visits and a lot of careful rotation. She heard him come into the stable, and she knew from his step, the particular rhythm of it, that it was good news. She'd learned the sound of his steps the way you learn the sounds of a house. Eventually they mean something. They approved it, he said. She straightened up. Burl shifted in his stall and nosed her shoulder. "When does it start?" "April. They want to run both lines for a month and compare the horse condition. Then they'll make the full switch." "They'll make the full switch," she said. "The numbers are clear." He looked at her. "Your numbers." "Our numbers," she said. "You trusted them enough to send them." He was quiet in the way she'd come to understand. Not uncomfortable quiet, but the kind of quiet a person gets into when they're thinking about more than what's been said. "I need to write back to them," he said. "They're going to ask who did the survey. I want to put your name in the letter." She looked at him. "Why does that matter to them?" "It doesn't, but it matters to me." She turned back to Burl. She ran her hand down the horse's neck. She could feel her own heartbeat in her hand. "All right," she said. By summer, the South Line was running full. The horses came in differently. She noticed it in the log before she noticed it anywhere else. The westbound animals were arriving with something left in them, not spent, not needing 2 days to recover. She updated the log every evening, and she could see the shift plainly in the numbers. Less recovery time, better condition scores. The drivers were arriving less tight in the jaw. A man from the stage company came out in August to inspect the operation. He was from Cheyenne, well-dressed for the territory, slightly uncertain on foot in the yard. He shook hands with the station master and then looked at her and said, "Is this the woman who did the South Line survey?" "Yes," she said. "Thorough work," he said. "We used it as a model for 2 other stations. They're doing the same kind of assessment on their routes now." She nodded. She didn't say anything. There wasn't anything that needed saying. He went back inside with the station master. She went back to what she'd been doing, which was recording the afternoon arrival in the log. After the Cheyenne man left, he came out and stood near her at the fence. They watched the horses in the corral. The sun was going west behind the ridge, and the light came through flat and gold and made everything look like it was worth looking at. He said your survey was a model, he said. I heard. You don't seem. He stopped. Started again. Most people would think that was something. It is something, she said. I just don't need to say so. He was quiet. Then he said, will you stay? She didn't answer right away. She watched a roan mare move across the corral to the water trough. You're asking me to stay as the cook and mender, she said. It wasn't quite a question. He didn't look away. No, he said. I'm not. She had known this was coming in the way you know a storm is coming when you know how to read the sky. Not the exact hour, but the certainty of it. She had not let herself think about it directly. But she had not avoided thinking about it either. She had kept the ledger. She had stayed through the cold. She had ridden Mace 3 days through January wind for numbers she knew would matter. My heel boot leaks, she said. He looked at her. Left heel, she said. I've been meaning to get it resoled in Kelton, but there hasn't been time. I can take it to Kelton, he said. Tomorrow, all right, she said. That was all that needed to be said that evening. By the end of the year, the log filled up. She started a second one. She kept the horse records in one and began a second for routes, road conditions, weather notes, and stage timing. He started checking both of them the way she checked the corral fence, systematically, looking for things that needed tending. She wrote to her sister in Cleveland in November, the first letter she'd sent in over a year. She told her she was well. She told her the work was good. She told her the land was different from Ohio, harder, more demanding, not given to softness, but that she had found she preferred that. She said the winter was coming in early, and the horses were in good condition, and she had lately been helping to plan a third station on the southern route because they were finding the load too heavy for two. Her sister wrote back asking if she was happy. She sat with the letter for a while. Outside the window, the ridge was going dark against the last of the daylight, that purple-gray color it turned at dusk in winter. She wrote back, the work is real, and the man is square, and the horses are good. I think that counts. She sealed the letter and put it with the outgoing mail for the Tuesday stage. The third station came together the following spring. She spent 2 weeks in April riding the line between Rimrock and Kelton, making notes, looking for the right ground, level enough for a building, close enough to water, accessible in winter. She found a place at a creek bend that had good drainage and a natural windbreak on the north side. She sketched it in her ledger with dimensions and compass headings and drainage flow and the distance to the nearest timber. He looked at it when she brought it back. How do you do that? He said. Do what? Walk into land you've never seen and know what it needs. She thought about her father, who used to put a survey map in her hand when she was 9 years old and say, tell me what the land is doing. Not what the map says, what the land is doing. She had spent years learning that the two were related but not the same thing. You look at what's there, she said, not at what you want to be there. He nodded slowly. Most people see what they want. Most people do, she said. The stage company approved the third station location. They broke ground in May. She was there when they set the corner posts, and she watched the line go up, and she wrote in the log. Third station, Creel Bend, first post set. South line now continuous. He was standing beside her when she wrote it. You should put your name in there somewhere, he said. It's an operations log, she said. It's also a record, he said, of who did what. She looked at the page. She wrote at the bottom, survey and site selection, Rimrock Station. He looked at what she'd written. Then he took the pen from her hand and wrote, underneath it in his own handwriting, South Line Project by order and assessment of, and he wrote her name. She had not told him her full name on the day she arrived, only the first. She didn't know when he had learned the rest of it. She had not asked. She looked at her name in his handwriting in the margins of the log. She closed the book. She set it in the front of the shelf where the records were kept, between the horse ledger and the route maps, in the place where important things went.